Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's Hannah at The Art Of, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to do makeup as I normally do. No, in reality this is a beginner's makeup tutorial. So when I was first starting out, I really I could follow tutorials, but they weren't super in-depth. So I really wanted to make like an in-depth kind of a guide. So for everything, so base, eyes, brows, lips, maybe I'll do a creative makeup like how I do my painting and stuff at a different point, but this one is more for everyday makeup. So if you're a beginner at makeup or you're a pro and you just want to learn a couple of new tips, keep watching. So the first step to any good base routine, I always do my base first. I know some people will do their eyes first and then their base. I prefer to do my base first because it is that, it's base. Take a shot every single time that I said the word base in that sentence. But anyway, you need to prime. So I use a myriad of things that I have over here. I've got face mists, I have traditional primers, I've got sunscreens, I've got moisturizers, I've got lotions, I've got astringents, and I have balms. And this right here is a hydrating jelly. So this is basically just going to, you know, hydrate your face. It's by Clinique. It's the dramatically different one. I really like it. And you do not need a lot, especially when it comes to primer. It's pretty potent. So I basically just put it all over my hands like this. And of course it's clear, but you can feel it. It's a little bit of an odd feeling, especially this one. It feels like a gel. And you just put it all over your face. Also, primer does depend on your skin type, as does pretty much all stuff for makeup. I pretty much narrowed down my collection to the ones that work best for me. Okay, so after I did that, now I'm going to start with my foundation, and I do actually like a lot of things in one when I do my foundation, which I don't really show a lot of the time in my tutorials that I do on Instagram. The first thing you need is a good brush or a beauty blender, and I prefer the latter because I just feel like a brush doesn't really do nearly as good of a job. This is just such a good blending tool, and you can get these from absolutely anywhere. They're basically just sponges, and you can use like a makeup wedge like these ones. For foundation, I'm going to be using the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Foundation. I'm in the shade F3, and let me tell you right now, if there's any starter foundation base product that you want, it is this foundation right here. This is one of the most affordable. I think it's only like $12 for this gigantic thing. It's really, really big, and it's one of the most affordable, one of the most just best foundations out there. Like, can compete with a lot of like high-end brands. One of the other things that I do while I do my foundation is I also contour. So I use this pretty cheap Wet n Wild contour stick just because it's a really good shade for me and it blends very well. It's in the shade Oaks on You. The next thing I do is I highlight while I also am doing my foundation. So I use a couple of different liquid highlighters. These ones by Makeup Revolution are my all-time favorites, and I normally just match them to whatever kind of look I'm doing. So today I kind of have an idea of what I want to do, and it's definitely calls for a more cool tone highlight than a warmer tone, which I do also have and sometimes use. So this is in the shade Mermaid Scales, and it's like a silvery green hint of blue and white highlight. Great product. And finally, to do with the base products, I normally will use a cream blush. This is the Milk Makeup one in the shade Work, and this also just goes on with my foundation, and I blend it all together. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I start with my foundation, of course, and I love the applicator with this foundation. Never gets stuck in a pump or anything. I'm seeking pretty much like medium coverage today, so I put that much on. Next I'm going to contour. So I grab my contour stick, I put it right there. Right there, sides of my nose. I know it looks crazy right now, but it will all blend out. And then I take my highlighter, grab a little bit. This is a dropper applicator. A little bit of this, because otherwise you will be looking like a diamond, and not in a good way. And then finally I will use my blush, and I just normally I'll stamp it on here. Maybe here. So I look insane, I know. And now the trick is really to soak this beauty blender. I'm using the Bath & Body Works alcohol-free face mist. I think that this does a really good job of saturating the beauty blender. And we blend and watch what happens. So it looks like a streak, right? If you blend it in, well, it turns pretty much invisible, but it does add shadows to your face. right, and then go up, blend in the highlighter. This highlighter, as opposed to some of the other ones I have, is definitely harder to blend in, but it does look really, really nice when you add powder highlighter on top of it. I typically will avoid the eye area when I'm blending because then later that will be completely covered with concealer and then also like an eye base. So, you know, I typically just do my face for foundation. So next, of course, is concealer, and I'm going to use the e.l.f. Camo Concealer today, and I mean, pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure that if you've ever experimented with makeup ever, you will have probably used concealer. It's probably one of the most important things in my toolbox because it makes you look awake. So 4 prime spots that I like to highlight between my eyebrows to really make a distinction because that area tends to get a little bit dark and shadowed. Under my eyes, of course, and then my chin. And this needs to be done quickly because it does oxidize. Now between foundation and concealer, you can let as much time elapse as you want to, but between concealer and powder, it's a race. So I'm currently kind of rushing. I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me powder. I'm in the shade Fair, and I use a slightly damp beauty blender. This is a different beauty blender than I use for my foundation, and I just pick some of the powder up on there so it looks like that, right? And I pack it in. And this is going to set that concealer in place. Next, I like to do something called baking, which is kind of what I did here, but this is a little bit different. This sets a kind of a guideline for you for later for bronzer, blush, highlight, all that kind of good stuff. So I use a powder puff much like this one. I know some people also use beauty blenders like that. I prefer to use a powder puff. This is by Revlon. And I go in with just a little bit of powder. You don't need very much of it. And I'm gonna draw a line from the corner of my mouth up to like the center of my ear. Like this. And again, I look insane. Don't mind it. In the meantime, while we let this kind of bake and set, which is where the name comes from, I do like to take a larger fluffy brush and I like to dip into a little bit of pressed powder. This one is by Revlon, and I go in under my eyes and on my forehead just to really set my foundation in place. Lock it in all day. Make sure you're not wiping off the bake, you're just setting your face. And now is when we're going to add some color back in. So because I used the blush and the contour, I already have a little bit going, but I definitely want to reinforce it. So the first thing I'm going to do is get out my bronzer. Bronzer I'm using today is the Makeup Revolution Ultra Bronze. The kind of bronzer brush I use is this little skinny thing. This one is from Ulta, but it's just very, very thin, you know, very sparsely set. Again, the bronzer is layered over the contour, so the contour kind of already gave me a little bit of a sharp chiseled look. This is just adding to it. So you do see there how my face is like, it gives the illusion that your jaw is a little bit more stretched. So I go in very lightly first because a lot of this will make you look like an Oompa Loompa. I go in right over the line where the bake is, so you can see I'm literally just towing the line. And that is what the bake is for. It serves as a guideline. And now here's a trick that I learned from Nikki Tutorials. I get a little bit of bronzer on my brush, so we're looking like that. And I'm gonna pack it on to my nose, between where the baking lines are, like that. So it looks a little bit odd. I promise it's gonna look cool. The next place that I like to do a little bit of bronzer is on my jaw, and it's because I just feel like my jaw is very round and it makes me look a little bit heavier than I am. So if I contour my jaw a little bit, it definitely gives me more of an angled look, more of the supermodel jaw, if you know what I mean. And then I finally do my hairline, my forehead, and this just makes my forehead look smaller. Again, you can skip this step if you want. If you think that your forehead is normal size, then that's good for you. I wish. Okay, so we did use the cream blush first, but I want to reinforce it, so I'm going to go in with a powder blush from Perfusion. This is a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic beginner's palette. It has literally a color for any day, depending on how you're feeling, and these can also be used as bronzer shades, these two. And then we got a darker one for darker skin tones. We got some lighter ones up here. I typically mix these shades together. During the summer, I'll also use this one, but it's a little bit bright for the winter, so. There are two types of blush brushes that I do commonly use. I will use this one, which is a lot fluffier. You can see it has a lot of pink on there. Or I will use this if I want a more densely packed blush look. So today I'm going to go in with this because I want to show you what I mean by that. And here's a little trick to put your blush on. So I'm going to smile. And do you see right here, it makes kind of like a circle, right? Where you're, I mean, I have dimples. I don't know if anyone else does. But right here is where I want to aim for my blush. Those are called the apples of your cheeks, and so little anatomy lesson for you. So I'm going in with these two shades, and maybe I'll do just a touch of that. I don't want to look too crazy, but I'm going to smile, and right on the apples it goes. And now, and this is the benefit of having the other brush, I can blend it up my cheek. Okay, so again, looking a little bit sus, we'll fix it. So next, the third thing that we have to reinforce is we did the liquid highlighter coming up. Now I want to go in with some powder highlight. And again, two commonly types of highlighter brushes you can use. There is a fan brush, but I wouldn't recommend using a fan brush. I don't really think it works very well. So you can get this thicker one for like a more all-around glow, which is very common if you want like a more natural base. This one's by e.l.f. And then I also have this, which is actually meant as an eyeshadow brush, but I like to use it to pinpoint certain spots. This is more for a glam, like structured traditional makeup look. So favorite highlighting palette of all time is the H Spotlight Highlight Palette. And again, lots of beautiful shades for all different tones. Typically mix these two, also depends. I can use these as a nice shimmery blush if I'm wanting to do that. We've got the orange, we've got the more of a bronzery shade. But like I said, I do prefer these two, which are called Ethereal and Glow. I'm going to tap into a little bit of them. Again, goes a long way. Spritzing again, adding a little bit more. I'm going to find the spot where I put the highlighter, and you can see it's right there, and we're going to accentuate it. So, like that. Okay, so just very moonbeam-esque. So now I'm going to do the bridge of my nose, because this also makes your nose appear much smaller, as well as the tip of my nose. And then again on the other side of my cheekbone. And finally, a very popular place to highlight is right on your cupid's bow, which is that little part where your lips go and make kind of a V. I also like to do my ears. I know a lot of people do not do this, but I like to use whatever's left over on my brush and just kind of dust the inside of my ear. I don't know if anyone notices that I do this, like when I'm out and about, but I just think I like the way it looks, and I think it adds a little bit, I don't know. So now it's time to wipe the bake off, and to do that I'm going to go back in with a powder brush, big fluffy powder brush, and I'm just going to wipe it off. And by now you will have noticed that the entire face has kind of blended together. So if you'll notice, because I baked my nose, it's definitely very narrow. I naturally have like very wide nostrils, and I really haven't figured out quite what works for me when trying to contour that, but you can definitely tell that my nose, I can't really show you but it looks much narrower here than it is in real life. Now, if you were just looking to get rid of a little bit of acne or something, you can totally stop here. It gives your skin a nice like airbrush kind of a finish. I like to keep going all the way and get to the real glam part, so let's move on to eyebrows. So brows, as I'm sure you know if you've ever tried to attempt them, are a journey. They're a process that you really have to kind of get used to. It's taken me a very long time to realize what I want to do with my eyebrows, because they are naturally very dark. So I really don't have to add a ton of product in order to add color, but I do want to add uniformity. So for example, you can see that I have like a little bit of a dent in my arch, which I think is because I shaped it too closely when I was plucking my hairs, but I like to fill that in, and I like to fill the front end because it gets very sparse. So overall, you know, there's just certain things that you might want to do with your routine that are different from mine, but this is pretty much what works for me, and I'll recommend some good products as well, so you can watch this part if you want, or you can skip ahead to the eyeshadow, whatever you want. This is my holy grail brow jar. These are all the products that work for me, that I like. I do have a couple of set like different ways that I'll do them depending on how I'm feeling, but this is like the jar, the go-to jar with all of the good products in here. So you can use a pencil, and this is the e.l.f. pencil. I do like this. I'm not a huge pencil person. I feel like it's a lot of work and you have to draw in all the individual hairs. I just am not a huge fan, but when I do want to do pencil brows, this is the brow pencil that I use. We also have brow gels. This is the Anastasia Dip Brow Gel, and this is the NYX Tinted Brow Mascara, and again, great avenue. But for me, because I kind of want to fill in parts of it, not as good. This is more for just adding a little bit of color and adding a little bit of like slickness. But this is a brow pomade. This is the LA Girl Brow Pomade. I'm in the shade dark brown, very inconspicuous. I do have the Anastasia Dip Brow Gel like I showed you earlier, but the Dip Brow Pomade is definitely expensive, as is pretty much everything that Anastasia sells. So I do like this one. It's a good dupe for it. It's LA Girl. And I just use a brow pencil that looks like this. It's nice and angled with a spoolie on the other side. So I will go through and spoolie my brows first, which makes sure that all the hairs are facing the same way. And then I just go in with a tiny little bit of brow pomade. I'm gonna kind of come up a little bit closer here, and I'm gonna show you what I'm doing. So the way that your eyebrow is, if you haven't done anything onto it, like shave it, is it goes up into an arch and then comes down into a little tiny skinny tail. I always start in the skinny tail area because I just feel like that's the best place to start. So I use the tapered part of the brush in order to draw in my tail, and already you can see how much darker and like more defined that is than this one. The whole point of doing your brows is just to structure them. Now what I like to do is I like to go in, I draw a line kind of like when you would outline, you know, drawings with it like a Sharpie or something. You're just outlining the bottom of your brow, and I'm gonna stop right where like the beginning of my eye is, because at that point you don't want to line because it'll look too dark. Okay, so I lined the bottom, you can see how that is, but this is looking very unfilled in. So I'm gonna use more, and I'm gonna use upward strokes. You can go in with more if you're have a very steady hand and like a very precise angle, and do the rest of them here, but I don't like to do that. So I'm actually gonna show you a little bit of a trick that I know. I'm now going to grab the Anastasia Dip Brow Gel. I'm in the shade Soft Brown, and I'm going to wipe off pretty much every bit of product that's on the spoolie. Now I'm gonna go and start combing these hairs up just at the front of my eyebrow, and smudging the line between where the pomade stops and the gel begins. And then what you're going to want to do once you've done that, and again you can see the clear difference between these two, is take your spoolie again and I blend the whole thing so it doesn't look drawn on, it looks more natural. And as you can see, definitely much more filled in than before. It just takes a little bit to find like the right technique for you again, and it could be this, it could be this, it could be something completely different and you'll invent it or something. Maybe I'll do a whole video about just different brow techniques that I've learned, but not in this video. Okay, so for eyeshadow, there are a couple palettes that I definitely think that every beginner should have in their collection. The first one is the NYX Ultimate shadow palette, and if you're looking for like more colorful looks, this is a really good beginner's palette. The shadows aren't the most pigmented, but they're definitely they definitely give you a sense of what it's like to like learn to blend and stuff. A lot of good variety in here, and I think we're going to use a couple of the colors. The second one is pretty much the most affordable palette ever. This is a Spectrum palette. I think it's like $5 on Profusion, and all of these colors are the most pigmented thing. For $5, such a good quality palette, and of course I'm sure you've seen this around. Again, just great beginner palette. And then if you're looking to spend a little bit more money, I recommend the James Charles X Morphe palette. I have the mini one, and I will tell you right now, I got it a year ago and all the colors are still completely like full. I use it pretty much every single day. If I had had this when I had first started doing makeup, I think I would have been a lot more confident in myself, because this is every single color you literally will ever need. From up here we've got more neutral tones, to the middle is like the most used natural shades, and then down here we got like the fun colors. So this is actually like 3 different palettes in itself, a lot of different colors going on, and just really useful, and this is what mainly we're going to be using today. Now you can buy a separate eye primer if you're interested in doing that. I like to just use a little bit of concealer. I'm just gonna get the camo concealer again, and I just put a dot on each eye, dot, and blend. This is just to give the shadow something to stick to. Some people don't use this at all and they just go in bare, and that's perfectly fine. You're probably just gonna have to use more product if you do that. I'm gonna zoom you guys in so you can see what I'm doing with the eyeshadow, but I'm gonna show you all the shades that we're gonna use. There, you're nice and close up to me. I'm gonna start with the Spectrum palette. I'm gonna go in with this shade right here. It's called Bermuda, and I'm going to use this little like crease brush, I guess. I don't know what they're all called, I just know what works best for me. This palette does have a lot of fallout though, which means that some of the shadow like gets very chalky and kind of falls everywhere, so you want to be careful. So first I'll start here. I'm going right in my crease. So basically when I say crease, I mean the space between my eyelid and my brow bone, so right there, like the crease where it folds. And I'm dragging the shadow just in from the James palette using the same brush. I'm going to dip into this shade right here, which is I think called Brother. Yeah, Brother. And just a little bit of that because this palette is one of the most pigmented palettes you will ever buy. And hence the reason that I recommend it so highly. It's just a very good quality palette. And I'm going in right under the light blue and kind of bringing it into my outer corner of my eye, like that. This is what we're looking like right now, just a very nice, simplistic blue eye. And now I'm going to do eyeliner. I did show you how to do eyeliner in the alt TikTok video, I believe. I showed you how to do hooded liner, at least, which is specifically for people who have hooded eyes. I'm just going to draw a line up and out as far out as you want it, and then connect it in here. So I've got my wing there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line into my crease, and then I draw a line from here out and sharpen the point a little bit, and now I'm going to fill it in. I went ahead and did the other eye off camera, and now it's time for lashes, which I know can be intimidating, trust me, but the whole reason I'm making this video is to share with you tips that I wish I knew when I had started out with makeup. So I use the Dye Silks. These are from Amazon, and they are such good quality. I think they were like $7 for like 10 different colors. But I promise you, lashes take your look from here all the way up to here, especially for like more glam kind of looks. So I'm using this pair of lashes. I don't know, they don't have names or anything, but it's just very tapered at the front and then comes out, which is the way any lash is supposed to be. This is what it looks like when it's all coated, and what's going to happen is it's going to turn tacky. So this is not like craft glue, like a glue stick. You can't just pop it on. That's the biggest mistake I used to make. You have to wait for like a minute until it gets all tacky. There are some glues that like change color to show you when the time is like ready, but I just use this one, so we're gonna wait. We're back and we're gonna show you how to it's just me show you how to do the lash. So the glue is tacky, meaning that when I touch it, it doesn't come off on my finger very much anyway. So basically all you want to do is line it up with the end, the inner part of your eye, and lay it down. I use tweezers for the inner part of it because it gets a little bit tough. And the glue, once it's completely dry, will dry clear, so like you won't be able to see it. Now that the lashes are on, all nice and secure, I'm going to use the Essence Lash Princess Mascara. And this is like one of my favorite mascaras of all time, and I just use this to do my bottom lashes. Like that. And now that the eyes are done, I like to line the bottom of my eyebrows with a little bit of liquid glitter. This is the Ulta Beauty one in Blinding Light. I learned this trick from Nikki Tutorials as well. She mentioned it in one of her videos. It just makes your eyebrows pop. So I just line the arch, the underneath of it. Nice silvery blue glitter. And then when you kind of tilt your head, it just looks very nice. You could also put regular highlighter there. I just like doing this. And now I'm going to do the inner corners of my eyes. And for that, I'm just going to use a white pressed glitter. And I just pop it in the corners. Just like that. It makes you look more awake, and I just like the way it makes me look. And now that's all that's left to do is lipsticks. I actually have every single shade of the NYX Lip Lingerie Push-Up. So I'm gonna find one that matches the lip color I want to do. So it's this one, which is called Embellishment. I think the word embellish is spelled wrong on this. It's 2 L's, right? NYX. Anyway, nothing against them. And I just line my lips, obviously. And I'm going to fill in with the liquid suede lipstick. This is in the shade Brooklyn Thorn. I really like this color, and I think it's perfect for fall. I'm going to blot my lips. So just do it on tissue. Yeah, that is the finished look. look, and I hope you guys like learned something from this. I hope you guys took something away, whether it be like how to put on lashes or just how to do blue eyeshadow, because it's one of the hardest colors to do, I know. But yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more like in-depth tutorials kind of like this where I do more of a beginner's guide, then let me know. And also go ahead and follow my Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of which are at xtheartof. I post pretty much every single day, and pretty good stuff coming. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow me on everything, and yes, bye.